It would be way too easy to open this episode with a pervy joke about wood, but that would be way too easy. So get your minds out of the gutter because my pal Tommy Arthur from Lost Abbey is here today to talk about all things wood, aging, grilling, flavors, and more. You can make a great beer with just 4 ingredients: barley, hops, water, and yeast. But to make an extreme beer, those 4 ingredients put together the same old way isn't enough. This is Project Extreme Brewing. We're headed to Dogfish Head Brewings and Eats to get in the right mindset for all the woodwork we'll be doing for this upcoming brew. Talk about the difference between what we're doing here at Dogfish Brewings and Eats, our Mecca, our OG brew pub here in Rehoboth, versus what's in the book.
The whole goal is to get an acidified beer with a wood component. I think while we're talking about a long-term aging in our process, there's an ability to do a short-term version here and to really be successful with it.
And the difference is that this would be a kettle sour versus barrel sour. So tonight is all about wood, Tommy. We're talking wood. Why are we standing directly downwind of a fire?
I don't know, man. You tell me.
What the what? Why? Why are we doing that? So less smoky here, right?
That's a little better, yeah.
Still close to the wood. If you're getting your ideal barrels, is it French oak? Is it American oak? What do you like best?
I mean, we certainly prefer to have French oak barrels to do our souring.
For homebrewers that might be out there, if you're thinking about starting to do your first wood or barrel project as a homebrewer, talk about the most sort of common varieties of wood and barrels that are available.
I think the biggest challenge for the homebrewing side of things has always been volume. I mean, there's a lot of barrels out there. You can buy a 52-gallon bourbon barrel and have it shipped to your door, but you need a lot of liquid to fill that. And so there's always been a question at the small 5 to 10-gallon side of things, how do you get that oak character in your beer? Yeah. And I think that's where a lot of the oak alternatives have become pretty important. We've got oak spirals, you've got oak shavings. What's cool about these is that they've got great surface area and they really allow for just a nice contact of the beer and the surface area. They don't take up a lot of space in terms of getting flavor on them. There's a lot of nice toasted and spicy notes that come out of these with not a ton of contact time.
And then tomorrow we'll be using these staves because we'll be doing this batch in stainless, but we do want to pick up some wood character. Like what you're doing there. So enough about wood. Let's talk some fruits. Tommy's recipe for Pesce de Tommy calls for wood-grilled peaches, and luckily for us, the Dogfish Inn has a cowboy cauldron, so we got to grilling.
So you're just a smoke machine.
I tracked it.
God.
I gotta take a pee before we go across.
Enjoy it. Should I wait outside?
No. We've known each other for a decade and a half. It's a one-banger.
Oh.
We'll be fine. Wait before we pee. Boom! Who are those guys? Crazy, right? So that was our first trip to Belgium for the first Extreme Brewing book. All right, I'll let you go to the bathroom by yourself, then I'll go. The next day, we took our haul of peaches to our pub. There, we could tell that we needed to caramelize quite a bit more. So we utilized a large wood grill that we've been making the pub's food on for over 20 years. So you've been a long time participant, not just of the movement of brewing outside the lines, but the Extreme Beer Fest itself. How do you define extreme brewing, and how do you think extreme brewing's defined now compared to 10 years ago?
I think it was pretty easy 10 years ago to think that extreme brewing meant this use of a lot of interesting ingredients and processes and a lot of nouveau things that hadn't necessarily been done before. But I think that the consumer is now in charge of that definition, and the consumer defines extreme brewing by what they're chasing. I think for us, we think about extreme as processed, as it's always been a process-driven thing. That this is different, made different by the additions and the way that we go about building the beer. But I think the consumer's defining it by the rarity and some of the scarcity.
This is the part where I get to ask you some more aggro questions.
You sure?
Yeah.
Did I sign this in the contract?
Yes.
Right.
Read the fine print.
I don't remember reading the fine print.
What is the best thing about being a brewer in a city with over 120 craft breweries, and what's the worst or most challenging thing?
The best is that I can still get to a bar that's crowded and get a beer, sometimes for free, right? The worst part is that there's a lot of places that have opened up that are supporting craft beer and can't get to them just because there's so many of them now.
Go back and check in.
There's shit in my beer, dude.
Peach beer. That'd be hops, my friend. Good stuff, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we came up with a tart Belgian-style brown ale, and to keep up the spirit of the wood, we aged on some beautiful French oak staves to introduce a different nuance to this already complex ale. So at the end of the day, me and my old buddy, Tommy Arthur, came together and brewed a beautiful beer called Péché de Tommy. Basically a slight sort of provincial take on his classic beer, Cuvée de Tommy. The luxuries we took, it's basically a Belgian-style brown ale that we lovingly fed some lacto to, and then we ferment it with caramelized peaches that we caramelized ourselves over wood fires at the Dogfish Inn and at the Dogfish Brewings and Eats in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware. You can see it's got a beautiful, rich brown color to it, a little bit of smoke and a ton of fruit in the nose. That beer came out beautiful and complex. So if you like the idea of this beer, if you're thinking about getting into wood-aged beers or sour beers, you're gonna love the Project Extreme Brewing book that we've done here with the Alstroms. You can buy Project Extreme Brewing anywhere you shop for awesome books, but it's also available at dogfish.com, so get brewing.